Nieves is a former NYPD detective and says...
The late photographer, journalist Ardina Seward. Nice to see you, Ardina.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And it's October 31st, folks. You know what day that is? Do you know where your ghosts are? It's Halloween. And we are, Angel Nieves and I are in New York City. So far, things are quiet. The kiddies are out there soliciting candy. And it's another Halloween with cats, no less. And tonight we are going to talk about spay and neuter. You always see cute pictures of black cats on Halloween, and their tails are up, and they look very, very scary. But nobody talks about the need to spay and neuter those animals. We have a guest tonight. Her name is Kristin Crage, and she is an activist. Kristin has been at it for a long, long, long time, and she is a staunch advocate of low-cost spay and neuter clinics. She's had marches, she's had rallies, and she is a tireless fighter in doing right by your pet. Angel has some videotape to show you what she's.
They also spoke about why they are pushing for more access to spaying and neutering.
Over Thursday, cat carcasses in plastic bags,
black garbage bags, and they were hung from trees. It's pretty horrific.
Can't afford the $500, $600 bill. So we can do a low-cost clinic. The amount of money we spend on mobile clinics.
There you have it, folks. You know, it's
I love it.
hard to see a litter of kittens out in the snow with no food and a thin mother, then this show is not for you. But if you're really concerned about controlling the cat population and also the dog population to a degree, then you need to listen up to what Kristin has to say tonight and how necessary it is to control the population, not only for the cats and the dogs themselves, but for the wider spectrum of animals. Because if you have an overabundance of cats, that's going to impact on other species. So with that, Kristin, tell us about your group and what you've been up to for the last years, many years.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, thank you for having me. First of all, happy Halloween. Yeah, and I always like to say on Halloween, please, if you're going to be adopting a black cat, please let it be because you want to save the cat's life. What happens a lot of time on Halloween is black cats get adopted, and you don't want to know what happens to some of them. So always make sure. They actually, I think a lot of shelters try to dissuade black cat adoptions on Halloween just to keep them safe.
Wow.
Yes, I am an animal rights activist. I can tell you, I think I was born this way. I don't actually remember a specific instance that led me down this path. I just remember being very small and my mother taking me to different places that she would take, you would take young kids like fishing or the zoo, and me just freaking out and not being able to tolerate seeing animals behind cages or seeing stray animals in the street. In fact, I think it was my mother who actually started to follow along my path. I became vegetarian at 11 and then vegan later on down the road. And my mother was really a huge support in my endeavor. Anytime we saw a stray animal, we always took the animal in, tried to find a home. So it's been a passion of mine. And it's, I don't know why it still strikes me, shocks me, but with all of the media around spay and neuter, we still see so many stray cats and kittens, particularly I know in the Bronx, here in Yonkers, we have an ever-growing number of stray cats and kittens. I myself do something called TNR. It's called Trap, Neuter, Return, for those that don't know what TNR stands for. And it's the very humane, gentle, compassionate way of trapping cats and kittens and taking them to be spayed, neutered, vaccinated. And I always try to find them homes. I don't do it as often as I used to because you do have to carry big traps. But even for that, my biggest problem and what led me to start to become a huge activist in my community, and it's been literally, I'm not kidding when I say 10 years now, that I've been fighting for a low-cost spay and neuter clinic in Yonkers, New York, specifically because of my work with TNR and seeing all of these, animals suffering. That's not okay with me at all. We have come to a place where we normalize seeing suffering, and that includes the suffering of animals. And whenever I talk to people and I hear people talk about wanting to stop violence and have compassion and end violence, I always tell them, when you talk about ending violence, you must also include ending violence to animals, because it begins with animals many times, but it also ends with animals, but for the very same reasons. For people just are not, for whatever reason, they're sick, they're not stable, whatever the situation. Animals tend to be, they are our most vulnerable population, and they always tend to be the last on the totem pole for politicians to consider establishing laws. I have worked with my council people a little bit. They're not the biggest on implementing a low-cost spay neuter clinic, and I have tried to come at it from different angles. I've tried the compassion angle. That didn't work. Then I said, listen, if you don't have compassion for animals, look at it from a real estate perspective. They built $1 million condominiums smack dab where hundreds of cats and kittens are getting abandoned, and people are selling off their condos, so they don't want to live down there anymore. And I've talked to a lot of these people. And this is one of the things that our politicians don't do. They don't talk to residents. They just kind of go out, they take pictures, they attend events, but they don't really talk to the people there. And people will tell you, and this is down by Getty Square, they'll tell you, I don't want to live there anymore. This condominium's, $700,000. I walk out 1 block east, west, north, I'm seeing suffering, or I risk being knifed in the back. That type of situation. So
let me ask, as far as yes, there are, Yonkers is unique because Yonkers does have an overabundance of stray cats for a variety of reasons. But here I want to play devil's advocate. A low cost spay and neuter clinic costs money. So how would something like that be funded? If the city was able to say, okay, we're in agreement with you, we will have this clinic. But how will that be? Where does the money come from to fund that?
Okay, great thing. I'm glad you asked that question. I did a very expansive, detailed budget. I work, numbers is my thing. I'm really good with numbers. So I did this incredibly detailed budget that included startup costs, overhead costs, costs for employees, costs for supplies, everything we would need, even including cost of possibly having to find a building or maybe even buying a van for like a mobile clinic. Everything they would need, I mean, literally is everything they need, they being our council people, to get this clinic up and running. And it was for 1 full year. So I also broke it down month by month so they could see. And when I presented this to one of our council people, she was like, this is great. This was great. And she said kind of the same thing. She said, where would we get the money? And I said, well, first of all, one of the things Yonkers didn't do, and this is on the Mayor Spano, we had Lionsgate Film come here, And everybody was not everybody, the mayor and all the council people, and basically your wealthy people that are going to benefit from Lionsgate Studio. So for those of you out there who don't know, Lionsgate Studio is one of the biggest film studios out there. They have a mother company in Los Angeles. Here in Yonkers now is like their second, like their other baby company. Now, the mayor, knowing that people wanted this clinic, and they do want it, he could have easily brokered in, put a clause into the contract and said, you give X amount of money, X amount of dollars back for X, Y, and Z, whatever programs, and this would include the Yonkers low-cost spay and neuter clinic. That would have covered the startup costs, because the budget I created isn't astronomical. It's definitely something someone like Lionsgate can do. And then I also set it up so that it wouldn't be just a 501c3. It would be a for-profit clinic, so that the clinic, providing that we would do the number of spay neuters we needed, would pay for itself. But one of the things that I did do was rather than, like some places like New Rochelle and even the ASPCA, when they had their mobile clinic, which they don't anymore, they closed it off to only the 5 boroughs, which I get because it's a lot. But the clinic the budget that I created opened it up, not just to Yonkers, but to New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, the Bronx, even up further up the line. Anybody that needs it, if you're don't have money and you need to have low cost, fine. If you're just rich and cheap and you want to do low cost, fine. That's what it's for. And so opening it up to different towns, I think, allows it to pay for itself. Guess what the response was that I got, Ardina?
What was that?
No.
Okay, now did you, I know that you approached, that you were in dialogue with City Hall, but were you also in dialogue with Lionsgate?
I tried time and time and time again. I politely asked them. I think I sent them letters. I called them. I called the president of Lionsgate and just said, listen, I'm a resident here in Yonkers. I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people. I have testimonials in the proposal that I put together of people that want this. They wouldn't take my phone call. And then when I tried to call the Mayor Spano, would not take my phone call.
Well, it was the same guy. The mayor was talking about he wants to make Yonkers the second Hollywood.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
Exact words.
He wants this to be like another mini New York City. He's all about building, building, building. He doesn't care about programs for people. He doesn't care about a low-cost spay and neuter clinic. He doesn't care that they're suffering on the streets because he doesn't look at it. He doesn't see it. Well, and the other problem is just one more quick thing, Ardina, is that people also have to take responsibility, because when I do these marches and these rallies, like a handful of people show up. And so it looks like people really don't want them. They do. They're just not motivated.
Well, let me ask you this. It's a noble effort, and the thing is that you haven't given up. But there was also, and correct me if I have my information wrong, there was the Toby project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the Toby project was great. It was, but the thing is, they were a small operation. It was one van, and they covered every place. They didn't lose funding, but everything slowed down from them after the pandemic and during the pandemic. And they have not gotten back up to speed to date to keep the same routine that they had before. So would it be more worthwhile to work with the Toby project to get them back to speed since they're already established?
The Toby project, and they did do good work. I think I took one of my strays there. The problem with having an outside organization is that we rely on their schedule. So the issue that comes up is that every time you trap one cat or 2 cats, and they only would allow you 1 or 2 animals per person.
Yeah.
if I have 5 cats and one of them is pregnant and I'm only allowed to bring 2, that means I've got 3 out there and 5 more on the way that I'm not going to get to. And that's just 1 or 2, that's just one colony. And there's probably about 30 different colonies throughout Yonkers. Yeah. So that's why I was really advocating for a standing low-cost spay and neuter clinic, one where it would be open every day. And this is what I tried to explain to the mayor's office. I had a gentleman by the name of Steve Stansone that I did a call with. And he basically just, yesed me to death. But what I tried to explain to him was the more we spay and neuter, the less we'll have to, if you fund this, the less it will cost us to run this, because the goal is to, not need it as often as we have to start it up at. So if we have to start it at needing it 5 days a week, 6 days a week, but we do that for a year, come the second year, we won't need it that much because there won't be, hopefully, so many stray cats and kittens on the street. And then the other problem with Toby, just quickly, is that they didn't allow people's pets. It was only for strays. So people were throwing their animals out when they would spray, because, when the males spray when they're not neutered, the females are pregnant, and they would throw their animals out like trash. And I just don't even understand that fun.
That's what we got.
The city of Yonkers might say something, and again, these aren't my words, just speculation, where, let's say, an official from the city of Yonkers say, yeah, this is great, but what's in it for me? What's in it for the city of Yonkers? So I guess I would have to say the same thing. What's in it for the city of Yonkers?
Yeah, for the city of Yonkers, what's in it is that you don't have to come in contact with suffering. When I was doing my march, I had the sanitation guys flag me down. Hey, Kristin, there's all these cats down over there. And I was like, I know. Can't you, when is that clinic going to be up and running? Wow. I'm trying. Even people that really don't like animals don't want to start their day seeing a dead cat or a kitten with a bulging eye, because that's what happens when they don't get vaccinated. Kittens will have they'll get a bacterial infection, they'll get a cold, they'll get a flu, and it happens in the sinus, and that makes their eyes bulge and come out. Yeah. It's very heartbreaking. It really is. Oh, God.
Well,
so, yeah.
The city might also argue that they don't have available space, because right now, we had talked about it before, with developers coming in and everything. Remember, there used to be a lot of abandoned buildings. Yeah. You drive down the street now, especially on the west side, and you do a double take and say, well, wait a second, where did that building go? It's either been torn down, or now it's a fancy schmancy, senior center or whatever. But there's just, where would you put it?
That's why I think probably to start, and I did have this conversation with one of our city council people. Probably the best way to start would be a mobile clinic, so that it could be mobile. A big one, I would have to say, something that could house. The other thing that people run into, particularly rescuers like myself, is that, like for me, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, and when I would trap a cat, and they're in the 3-foot cages, right? I had nowhere to put this poor kitty, so I would have to put it in my bathroom, because you have to make sure they don't eat the night before they go in for surgery. So that would be another good thing to have, is not only in the mobile clinic, the clinic itself, but maybe a space for rescuers that need to have cats held the night before. Right. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to start like that, but I think it would be the smartest way to go, because specifically for what you're talking about, because they are taking up all these buildings and they're just turning them into these, things that people can't even afford here. Ardina, we're not a wealthy community. The wealth doesn't start until you get past Yonkers.
The further up the Warburton you go, there are some rather impressive buildings, but by and large, there's not a lot of money in the areas that you're talking about where these animals have been abandoned. Angel, I think you want to ask some questions.
Yeah, I was going to go back with Toby. Toby started in Long Island, right? And went to the ACC.
Toby, say that again?
Toby's the one that a vet came up with from Long Island, and the ACC, and she worked with the ACC, and the ACC was the one using the program, right? That's Toby?
I think so. I think that's
I know her, Leviton.
Yeah, yeah.
Long Island.
Yep.
I remember when she started when she started with the idea of the program. That's
Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
believe we used it once. A friend of mine is to call him the Cat Man, Desi. He lives in Yonkers now.
Mm.
And we did something in Harlem with the cats. And he was incredible. I assisted him because I don't know what the hell he was doing. But the patience that he has in grabbing these cats, and he had like a dozen cages. He got them all.
Mm.
We grabbed it. The next day, Toby showed up. And I saw them working in there.
Mm.
Everything in there. You know, it's not
Yeah.
like you can take it to a hospital. They do everything there. And
Yeah.
I think the males get cut loose, and the females have to hold. Because
Yeah.
it's more intense on that. But it was a good project. You know, I mean, like everything else, everything goes down the drain because of the budgeting, and they blame COVID also. But you know, like the animals is the last budget they could think of. You know, but animals and security are the two budgets that they just forget about.
Yeah.
And that's wrong because of what's going on now. You know, but there was also, we had a guy here on the show with us that he also saved cats in Yonkers, and he says the same exact thing. And in more detail, he actually said these cats, they just throw them out there and they treat them like trash. And that's what you remember the guy I'm talking about, right? I forgot his.
I remember Francisco.
And he
Just look at that.
and he really needs help too. I mean, I know he'll go on your way 100% because this guy was trying to get a 501. He was disabled. I mean, it was a construction accident, and what saved his life was a cat.
Mm.
And that's how he started this.
Mm.
You know, like what was it, Goldo or something like that, the name of the cat.
Yeah, it's called it's Project Kristen. You probably are familiar with him. He has something called the Gordo Project, and he's sort of a very small operation. I believe it's just himself and his wife, his partner, and he rescues neighborhood cats, but it's very localized, and he's done the best that he could to bring in strays and get them fed, get them medicine. But it's sort of a one-man band operation. But with your project, as far as the mobile unit is concerned, have you reached out to other facilities? Because it would appear that you might even be able to get the donation of a mobile van. I mean, it could be that expensive as compared to a full setup with a lot of rooms in a building to get a mobile van going.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place where I'm at right now is I feel like the only way this is going to happen, because I don't know if the mayor's position may change come November because he's up for re-election. He's been in office for 3 terms. I mean, it's like he's like monopolizing the mayorship. But I'm waiting to see what happens. If he stays in office again, it's going to be like a constipation of Yonkers. This guy's got to get out of office. We just need a change. But if he stays in office, then I probably am going to have to start my own 501c3, which is not something I want to do. It's a lot of work. And if you guys saw the budget I put together, it is so much. I mean, to run one of these clinics, and I know because I've worked in vet offices before, it's a lot. It is literally your whole life, and you have to resolve yourself to doing that. And that's something I would need to do, which if it's for these animals, I will do it. But it's very hard. I don't know what it is about people. They say they want this done. They say they want that done. But then you ask them to step up, and everybody takes a step backward, and it makes it hard to get things done. So I may have to do the 501c3. If I do, I'm going to need to hire people, which is the budget does include salaries for people to hire, veterinarians, LVTs, licensed veterinary technicians. So I can do that, and that would be something that I would have to, really consider.
So you'd have to do it. So let's say to have a very simple operation with the van, skeleton staff, veterinarian, an assistant, an intake person. How much are we talking about on a monthly basis?
On a monthly basis, I'd have to look at let me see if I can pull it up.
This is including insurance, the van maintenance, and equipment rental.
Yeah. I'm actually pulling it up now. I actually did it for a monthly.
I can make it a little bit easier. I'll just toss the number out there. Is 5,000? No, 5,000 would not be in the ballpark. But is 10,000 in the ballpark, or is that a gross underestimate?
That's a pretty big underestimate.
I figured. I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, hold on. I'm pulling it up now. So let's see. Okay, so on a monthly basis, what you're looking at, yeah, it's a lot, Ardina. It's about $120,000 a month.
Okay, so $120,000 a month. You're talking in excess of $1 million a year. Let's say 1.4 million to round it up. 1.4 million to operate the van with a skeletal staff for 1 year.
Yeah.
So,
but the budget that I created does a lot for that. So what I did was the number that I'm giving you, the estimate that we're talking about, that includes the number of spay and neuters that will be done per month. So if the number goes down for spay and neuters, then the cost will go down. So I made it so that it pays for itself.
But how much? I know that you're saying that it's low income. So how much would it cost the pet owner to have their pet neutered? Yeah.
So this is what. See, now you're getting me excited about this. I get really excited to talk about it. So the cost to spay for this clinic, for those that are low cost, it would be $125 for a dog, and that would include the spay, or for a male dog it would be $100, and that would also include it would be extra for like rabies, so $125, so it's like $180, maybe $200 to spay and neuter your dog, female and male. Let me put it this way: under $300 for your dog to be spay neutered and vaccinated. So that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, the cost of that's half the cost of the local animal hospitals and vets. I mean, right now, to get a cat spayed and with shots, it's roughly $600, which is a staggering amount of money if you don't have it.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. It's $125 is what I made it for, and that is for the spay, the rabies, distemper, flea tick, and dewormer. Yeah, it's I made it really low because a lot of people here in Yonkers are that need the service are low income, and yeah, I mean, if you ask your vet to spay and neuter your dog or cat right now, it's like $700. Some people are telling me.
Yeah, it's insane.
Let me ask you one thing. I notice more and more is being advertised, and even the SPCA, I believe, has it, pet insurance.
Yes.
What does pet insurance cover? Would it cover neuter?
Yes. So I also am very versed with pet insurance. I work a lot with that. Pet insurance is great. Here's what pet insurance will not cover. And first of all, when you get pet insurance, make sure you tell the person you're speaking with what kind of dog or cat you have, because that's going to determine what they cover, what they don't cover. Sometimes purebreds, that sort of thing, will have a different coverage. let me start with what it doesn't cover. Pet insurance will not cover spay and neuter, which is ridiculous. It will not cover, right? It will not cover the wellness visits, which are your rabies vaccinations. It basically doesn't cover what everybody needs in the first couple of years of their animal's life. Here's why I love pet insurance, and I'm going to tell you my personal experience and my big mistake, and hopefully people will learn. My little guy Milo, my kitty Milo, is 11 years old. Now, I never needed pet insurance because I knew it didn't cover his basics. Now, he's 11. He needs to have an echo. He needs to have his teeth cleaned. He needs to have something else I forgot. If I had pet insurance, all of those would be covered at 80%, 90%.
Wow.
So that's why you get it. You get it for when your dog is later in like 5, 6 years old is when you want to start looking at pet insurance, when the bigger things kick in. So pet insurance is good for the big stuff, cancer. I have a woman that I know of, her dog is going through diabetes, so it covers all diabetes shots.
Diabetes.
Yep. All the big things is what it covers. That's what you want your pet insurance for. So it is good. It really is.
So that's a good point. It's something that I'm glad you brought it up because it's worth the investment. And it's a terrible situation where people suddenly find an animal, their beloved pet, ill, and now they have to make a choice between paying the rent or letting that animal suffer. And that's an awful, awful dilemma to be in. But as far as your project is concerned, have you thought about organizing a GoFundMe?
Yeah, someone else mentioned that. I may try to do a GoFundMe. $1.5 million is quite a lot for a GoFundMe. So, but I may try. I'm actually in the process of doing myself and another Yonkers resident are working on a documentary film specifically about this whole journey of trying to get this up and running. So these are all things I'm going to have to consider if the mayor stays in office. If I spoke with one of the candidates, Anthony Moranti. He's a big animal advocate. Yes.
Anthony's
Moranti.
Wonderful.
Moranti for mayor.
He's good.
Yeah, I spoke with him, and he one of the things he said, and I couldn't agree with him more. He said, we have to get the shelter out of the Parks Department. The shelter is run by the Parks Department. No shelter should be run by the Parks Department. They should be governed by themselves.
That is interesting. There's probably a whole political historical history about how the animal shelter falls under the aegis of the Parks Department, which is a little bit of a head scratcher, but it is what it is. Right now, you are tasked with the dilemma of trying to find and fund a mobile clinic to spay and neuter pets so that the city isn't overrun with cats and dogs, probably more so cats. I'd like to, when we're talking about chapter, because we're winding down to the last few minutes of the show, when we're talking about TNR, if there are a number of stray cats in someone's community, is there a trap that they can purchase? Is there a TNR trap? How do you go about grabbing is the wrong term. How do you go about getting a stray cat and getting it into a trap so that you can then port it to a vet or feed it or take it home? Sure.
So one of the things you want to do is start putting food out for the cat. Make sure you feed it at the same time every time. If you do that, just remember the cat will probably stay there. But more times often than not, when you spay and neuter, they tend to disperse because they only stay around to procreate. Then you can go to Amazon or eBay and just type in kitty trap or something like that. There's Have a Heart has traps. There's different traps out there. And then the other thing you can do is go to the ASPCA.org, Best Friends, and they have classes on how to trap, or you can just learn to set up the trap yourself, trap the kitty. But remember, you're now going to be in the situation where you have to find a place, take it for low-cost spay and neuter, then you have to wait where you're going to put the cat while you're holding it overnight because it can't eat past midnight. So it's very difficult for some people, but that's what you have to do.
Also, you got to watch how you don't get wildlife. You get a raccoon or a skunk on a cage.
Yeah.
You probably even get a fine.
I've gotten skunks before, and I've had to release the skunks. Not fun.
If somebody in Yonkers right now is watching, and they have a cat colony or know of 3 or 4 neighborhood cats in the area, and they sincerely want to be able to help those cats, is there a number that they can call? Is there a group that they can call? Do they call you and they say, Kristen, I got to do something with these cats, otherwise they're going to die over the winter?
There's no one to call. That's why I've been advocating so hard for this. There are people that do TNR. They don't want me giving their names out because they just get overwhelmed. I personally don't have a car, so I can't do it as often as I used to. I only used to do it in my neighborhood. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm glad we're doing this. There's no one to call. And if you call the shelter, they'll tell you, sorry, we can't help you.
That's right.
So it falls on the hands. When I go down to Getty Square, I speak to a lot of really good people that are basically on welfare, food stamps, and they're still trying to find a way to help these cats and kittens. That says a lot about our community.
They'll take the food out of the mouth and give it to the cats.
That's right. That's right.
But also I believe is that they should have politicians the same way like to put the ASPCA, please give $1. You know, they should have some kind of education, advertisement of these animals that are strayed. What to do, education. Don't leave animals outside. To go with the rest of the animals. You have to spay and neuter your animals.
That's right.
It has to be advertised more often than just asking for money.
That's right. We need everybody out there. Please stop abandoning and abusing your animals. If you don't have money for spay and neuter, go to the low cost. That's where they can go, Ardina. Go to the low cost spay and neuter initiative page. I run that. I do have a list of places that you can go in and around New York City and Westchester, and I can send that to people. And that will help in terms of for their personal pets, and even if they want to take a stray animal. So again, it's the Low Cost Spay and Neuter Initiative Facebook page, or you can just look me up, and I will give you that list. But please don't just throw an unspayed, unneutered cat out. And we do need our politicians to stand up and speak out. If our mayor just even once a week said, stop abandoning and abusing animals, that would make a difference. He doesn't.
Well, let's see. We're down to the early voting has already started, so that will be decided. Whoever's going to run Yonkers for the next few years will be decided in a matter of a few days. And depending on who that person is, you'll be back for another show.
Espérate. You wrote a book.
What?
You wrote a book.
Oh, yes. Between Humans and Animals.
Wow. All right. Wow.
There you go.
And if people want to get that book, where would they find that book?
You can go to barnesandnoble.com. You can go to Amazon. I think those are the 2 places right now. I wrote that a while ago, but unfortunately, a lot of what's in there still pertains to today.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, the struggle never ends. So with that, I'm going to give it the last word to that guy over there.
All right.
Angel?
Well, Kristin, thank you. Thank you very much. I know it's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more details. A lot of people have to get educated. People have to be responsible with their own pets so they don't get lost and be in the colonies. Thank you very much, and I hope the mayor's listening. Listen up, do the right thing. All right, do the right thing for the people, do the right thing for the animals. All right,
Yeah.
everybody happy on this. All right, so thank you very much, and thank you people for listening. Please share this, subscribe, okay, hit the notification button because we need you.
Yeah.
Okay, and please, people, we're just talking about it now, but spay and neuter your pets, and do you know where your pets are?